Good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar on buying in Cyprus. It's a shame we can't do them live at a place in the Sun Olympia, which was due to be this weekend, but we hope these sessions might be able to inspire you with some ideas, provide you with some information, anything else. So do stand by with any questions that you have. My name's Liz Rowlinson, property journalist, editor of Place in the Sun magazine, and I would like to get my panelists to introduce themselves. Denise.
Hello, Great Britain. It's Denise Kay from Sold on Cyprus. Very pleased to be here.
Rob.
Hi everyone, my name is Rob Johnson. I'm the Managing Director of RJ Overseas Property. Hope you're all staying safe.
Richard Way.
Good afternoon, I'm Richard. I'm an overseas property writer, journalist. I've been writing about property abroad for nearly 2 decades across a variety of websites and publications, including a stint as editor of Place in the Sun magazine. I'm also a homeowner abroad, not in Cyprus, unfortunately, well, in Spain, but it does mean hopefully I have an understanding of all the things and responsibilities that come with owning a second home abroad, and I hope to share some of my personal experiences with you. Thank you.
Brilliant. I mean, Cyprus is one of our most popular destinations. It's actually got more popular in the last couple of years. In our last top 10 index, it was in the top 5, going above Florida, Greece, and even Italy. So we aim to talk about popular areas of Cyprus, and also explaining the buying process and answering any questions you have. If you have any questions throughout the session, then do just click the question mark symbol on the screen, and we can keep an eye on them as the session goes on. But we've got a few in advance that we will address. But and we'll also run some polls to ask, where you're buying and get an idea of what you're really interested in. So first of all, I think maybe we should kick off with a poll of which area of Cyprus are you most interested in buying in? Is it Paphos, Larnaca, or the Paralimni Ioannapa area? If you can tell us what you think, that would be great. Maybe it's another area of Cyprus, but I think those are the most popular buying spots, but we'll talk about areas in a bit. I'm just waiting. So Paphos is the most popular area, 53%. Then other, not sure. Paralimni Ioannapa, 18%, then Larnaca. So that's great. Well, first of all, this has been a really unprecedented situation. Denise, what's going on with the situation in Cyprus? I mean, I think there's been only 20 deaths of COVID. Can you give us a bit of a picture about what's happening?
Hello. Yes, we shut the borders on the 14th of March, and there's been a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 in the morning. We've only been allowed out once a day, and we have to text a specific number which says where we're going, what we're doing. So if we're going to the supermarket or the chemist, we're only allowed 1 trip a day. Everything's been shut, but the supermarkets and essential items. In the supermarkets, there's been no shortages, no queues. Everything's been very well behaved, and there's been very low deaths, just 15 deaths in Cyprus. And today, very good news, it's our lowest ever. We've just had 2 new cases today. So it's going in the right direction. Today, Monday this week, the curfew was changed. So we have to stay home now between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. and we are allowed out of the house 3 times a day. So
Wow. Yeah. And how has this been affecting how you run your business, Rob?
Obviously, the market has slowed down, which was inevitable. I mean, we've still been receiving inquiries through the various portals, and actually calls, emails to both the UK office. The team have been working remotely from home, obviously, since the 19th of March in Cyprus. I mean, one facility we have done for clients, or arranged for clients for those who wish to take it up, we've carried out several remote online viewings, which it's been pretty successful, to be honest. We've had good feedback from that. Obviously, at the time of the lockdown in Cyprus, we had various clients at various stages of purchasing properties. Some were waiting for land registry. A lot of the government offices, as Denise would know, either closed down or were working from home, skeleton staff, etc. But we've managed to sort of still keep in touch with various lawyers at various stages. But, you know, I think the situation Cyprus is at now, we can see that progressing, contracts being completed, and hopefully get more to business as usual over there.
Brilliant. And I think, Denise, I think it's all key to get people out here. I think you've had some good news about flights this summer. How's summer tourism and people being able to come out to the island looking?
the domestic tourism will definitely go ahead in terms of people that visit, particularly the Famagusta Protaras region. Historically, the Nicosians, the Cypriots that live in the capital, have many holiday homes, and they visit the area every summer, and they will do so this year. In terms of flights, we've heard that the regional areas, the local regions, the flights will be opening up at the end of May. And I've heard today that flights from the UK, Rob actually said that from Birmingham, their flights are going from June. Right. So I think, you know, it's looking encouraging.
That's really good news. And Rob, I mean, we've had a few questions about people whose their buying process, or their property hunt process has been delayed because of this. If they come out in July, is there still time to buy a property in Cyprus before the end of the year?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, it's for those who have already purchased, as they'll know, you know, a large proportion of the legal system in Cyprus is based on the UK law. There's a couple of slight differences, but yeah, you know, I think from the time of reservation, you're probably looking somewhere between 8 and 10 weeks for completion. But the good thing is the interest has remained, and that's the thing. I think it's been slightly frustrating for UK-based clients that they can't get out there, where a lot had already pre-selected properties. We're still getting a high take-up on pre-arranged viewing trips, for example. So yeah, I mean, it's very, very encouraging. I think the one thing that will come out of this, there will be some excellent value for money opportunities as well, whether it be through resales, new build through developers, etc.
Brilliant. We'll come on to that in a sec, but I think just before we move on to the appeal of the island and the different areas, we might do another poll. The second one is, you know, we've just been talking about air travel, but how many of you think that the changes to air travel are going to be a major factor in changing your decision to buy in Cyprus? Yes or no? If you have a minute to answer, it will be interesting to see. Perhaps the cost of flights might go up a little initially, but you know, we hope that things will go back down to years before. And yeah, that's changes to air travel. 66 of you say that no, they're not really going to be a factor. So that's encouraging. So moving on to places, popular areas of Cyprus. Richard, you've interviewed many people over the years who've bought in Cyprus for our magazine. And what do you think of the appeal of Cyprus, say Spain or Greece?
Yeah, thank you, Liz. I have, and I've also been out a number of times with developers and agents to look at properties. I think you might correct me, Rob and Denise, but around about 50% of tourists who come to Cyprus are British still. It might even be higher. So they really are, a key part of the tourism and just their international people visiting the island. The other thing to think about, just going back to flights quickly, is Britain. There are two major international airports in Cyprus too, Larnaca and Paphos, which you don't get with a lot of other island destinations. They typically have one. So that's another big advantage. It means you've got a bigger spread of flights coming not just from the UK but Europe. That all helps with the attraction of it, because access is a really important thing when you're buying abroad or you're moving abroad. In terms of the key attractions, well, climate is the other one, is the obvious one. I think they call it an intense Mediterranean climate. So you get long hot summers from April until September, October. You've got a good warmth there for swimming and proper beach weather. Even in January, you're looking at mid-teens during the day. So I'm talking about coastal really, because it does vary a lot. If you go inland and you start to go up into the hills a bit more, it changes. But if you're looking at coastal, you've got warmth year round, even in winter. So that also means a longer season for rentals. If you're buying to let to holiday makers, you've got a nice long season there. The lifestyle, of course, it's got the sort of Mediterranean Greek type of lifestyle, which nobody can say they don't enjoy. But one of the other things that a lot of places don't have is the familiarity as well with its days as a British colony. There's a lot of traits that are still there, which is a comfort to people. You've got driving on the left. Rob mentioned the legal system is modelled on the English common law. You'll see Marks and Spencers and Debenhams in the towns. English is pretty much the second language there, so you don't ever have a problem with language in Cyprus, or very rarely. And there'll be, you've got English-run establishments like restaurants and bars. It's not to say that's all there is, because you can dip in and out of the local scene, and there's lots of tavernas and local restaurants as well. So it sort of blends that legacy of part of the British past with some interesting and Cypriot culture as well. Another thing we should mention is the taxation in Cyprus is favourable towards pensioners and general income tax. I think it's 19,500 euros is your tax-free threshold, and then after that you can even choose between two types of taxation, and they do favour pensioners. You won't get taxed. For most pensions, you won't get taxed in the UK and Cyprus. You'll get taxed in Cyprus only. There's no inheritance tax, and capital gains tax is a lot more favourable than the UK as well. So if you bring all that together into one package, I can see why a lot of people like to buy there.
Brilliant, lots there. And Denise, what do you think the typical buyer is looking for in Cyprus?
I've been here a long time, and 20 years this year, and it hasn't changed. There's two areas that the buyer looks for. It's our retirees, which was just mentioned. As a British colony, it's very easy to live here, and very similar in most areas. But if they want to come and live here, they normally look in the villages for a community purchase, somewhere where they can have hobbies, friends, most of them retirement ages. So the village properties for the retirement clients, bungalows or houses. And the other typical buyer are holiday home buyers, and these are slightly different. They're not coming to live in Cyprus. They're coming to have a holiday home. They may spend more than just a couple of weeks, but ultimately it's a holiday home, and some of those buyers will rent those properties out, and those type of properties will be bought in the tourist areas, near the sea areas, because they are more rentable if they are closer to the sea. So the typical buyers look for village properties if they are retiring, or the seaside areas if it's a holiday home or a purchase to rent.
Brilliant. And Rob, how has that mix, those two types of buyer, changed with the Brexit referendum? Is it sort of 50-50 now, then? Can you give us a picture?
Yeah, that's a word I've not heard for a while, actually, Brexit, fortunately. But yeah, I mean, since the referendum, I think the market's gone through various stages, to be quite honest with you. I think initially we saw a greater demand for people wishing to relocate from the UK, and that market is still there. I think that was followed, I mean, there were so many dates given, wasn't there, which we're all aware of. We're going to be out in January, March, etc., etc. That was quickly followed by an influx of people looking for holiday homes, perhaps slightly uncertain, do we want to relocate, should we buy a holiday home first? But, the market's been fairly consistent. And I think a lot of that is based on the historic relationship Cyprus has always had and always will have with the UK. So we're getting a higher demand now for people who wish to do land and plot, or design and build, as we call it. They like the thought of, whether it's a holiday home or a relocation home, the input into the property themselves. So it's very much mixed, but the encouraging part is the demand is still there.
Yeah, I think one of the effects of the pandemic is we're going to see more demand for these island stroke distant rural locations, as the popularity of cities might not be as high as it was. So we'll see whether that happens. But Richard, Paphos, as we saw from our poll, is the most popular location. Why is that?
Well, of course, I've got two colleagues here I know who are based in the east, so and there's often this ongoing debate about who's got the best beaches, and the fact is they're all good beaches in Cyprus. The Paphos district, because there's the district and then there's obviously the town, the resort. If we look at the district, I think the diversity of it, it's not all beaches. You've got a lot of culture and history there. The town itself of Paphos is a UNESCO heritage site. It's got the ancient port and harbour area. And then you've got famous Aphrodite's Rock in that area. There's an archaeological park. There's a Tomb of the Kings, the Akamas Peninsula, which is a protected area. You've got green scenery very close by in the hills and the mountains going up to Troodos. And then from all that, you can be within 10 minutes of a lovely sandy beach. So it really is quite diverse. And as Denise has said, a lot of her clients like the traditional village, very much community-based environment. And you have a lot of these little villages just outside Paphos town. You can be 5-10 minutes drive away and you're in a village, more of a traditional village environment, but yet you're still very accessible for the beach and the life of the livelier areas of Paphos Resort. Paphos Resort has everything packed into it as well. You've got an older part, and then you've got Kato Paphos, the newer part nearer the beach, which is where, as Denise said, that the more holiday maker homeowners and people wanting to rent or buy. And really, as you move out from the centre, you're moving into the quieter areas where you're going to get more of the community type environments. So, the other important thing is the golfers. Most of the golf resorts, golf courses are in that part of the island as well. Aphrodite Hills, Secret Valley, Elia, Mintis Hills. So, it does offer, in terms of diversity for activity and scenery, I think it's fair to say Paphos district has that. And of course its own airport. There's an airport just outside Paphos town as well.
Sure, brilliant. And Denise, it's sort of been, it keeps evolving, doesn't it, Paphos? It was City of Culture, and I think it's got a new marina coming. Can you just give us a few ideas of how it's changed over the last 5 years?
Yes, it has changed. The old town's had a complete rejuvenation. You know, it's a city that never sleeps. It has everybody can go to the old town with the traditional taverns and bars, restaurants, coffee shops. It has a brand new theatre as well. And all the pedestrian walkways in Paphos have been improved. So its improvement has been very great. The actual marina has not yet started, but there are plans for a new marina in the Paphos region as well.
Brilliant. And Rob, what sort of prices in Paphos? What can you expect to sort of get for the typical 3-bed villa with a pool, for example?
Yeah, yeah. There again, I mean, it just slightly vary between new build, resales, etc., as it does indeed on the East Coast. But I was looking at the latest RICS quarterly figures the other day. I mean, a typical 2-bed apartments in the Paphos region, you're probably looking at starting around about 100,000. That's euros. A 2-bed townhouse around about 110, and a 3-bed villa around about 170, 175. As I said, sorry, go on.
How does that compare with your area, Rob?
I still think the East Coast still offers probably a lot more value for money. Although prices are slightly increasing when you look at the amount of investment going on the East Coast at the moment. We've obviously got the new marina that's nearing completion at just outside Ironapa at Ayathekla. We've got the new marina at Padalimni, which is totally going to rejuvenate the area just outside Pataris. The area of Paris, there's a lot of regeneration going on around there now. So yeah, I mean, prices are still slightly lower on the East Coast, but yeah, but I think there'll be good value for money opportunities across the island, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and Denise, moving on to your patch there. I mean, what else is? Why else might buyers want to move to live there rather than Paphos?
I think with the Paphos region, it's just more well known to the British market, and it's just taken a while for the southeast area and all the beaches for awareness really to understand what that area has to offer. I did go on holiday to Paphos, and then when I decided to live in Cyprus, I chose the southeast area because of the beaches. You know, there's 21 blue flag beaches in the area. It's a small area, but it actually has 52% of all the tourists from the numbers come to the Famagusta region. So it has a very large amount of tourism for a very small area as such. And the occupancy rate, if anyone's thinking of a buy-to-let, 91.3% occupancy on apartments in the area. So it's a very, very popular area, and everybody loves the beach, and there's so much choice. And as Rob said, we do have a marina in the area that is near completion, 700 berths. It will be open 12 months of the year with bars and shops and restaurants. And then we have a Paralimni, another marina, smaller in scale, but again, that will be open for the 12-month season, and that will have shops and coffee bars and restaurants as well. So there's a lot to offer, And I think it's just the awareness to the British market of what the area has to offer them.
Sure, and I've been to the marina myself, and it's amazing. But they're sort of going for wealthy buyers, aren't they? From the Lebanon, Israel, that sort of. There's a lot of different tourist groups that visit that section of the island, isn't there?
It's very cosmopolitan. It has a mixture. If you look at Cyprus as a whole, we know that Limassol has a very large Russian community. Paphos is a British and Chinese community. And with Larnaca and Famagusta regions, it's very mixed. I'm a Londoner, and it feels like London in a lot of ways, because it has such a mix of different cultures, different visitors, British being a very large number, but you're quite right, we have Lebanese and we have some Chinese as well, some Russian, and different people come to the area. It's very mixed.
Brilliant. And Rob, we've talked about Paphos, we've talked about the east. Are there any other areas that you should flag up that might be of interest to buyers?
Yeah, I think I think other than Paphos and obviously the east coast, I think one city that's seen an awful lot of investment at the moment is Larnaca. I mean, the demand for Larnaca now is massively on the increase. There again, I mean, we know about the investors coming into Cyprus through the passport program, etc. But not everyone can spend 2.5 million. There's still opportunities in and around Larnaca, some beautiful villages just outside Larnaca, which are 5-10 minutes from the marina, 10 minutes from Mackenzie Beach, etc. So I think Larnaca over the next 12 months, 2 years, will see a boom in popularity there. There again, as Denise said, Larnaca itself, we go for the weekend there.
Yeah.
You do, don't you? It's a 20-minute drive, you go for the weekend. But it's so cosmopolitan there, with a promenade. It's closed off to traffic on a Saturday. All the Cypriots come out with the families. It's beautiful, So yeah, I think Larnaca, and we've seen a massive increase in inquiries as well for Larnaca district.
Brilliant. Richard, any highlights over the years from your trips of places that you liked that you want to mention?
I liked Polis. I think it's cool, which is just in the Paphos district. Yeah, it's a bit. I quite like the more laid back, quieter area. Little. I was going to say secret. It's not secret, but it's a bit more rural, a bit more traditional. And I remember very well a lunch I had at a fish restaurant on the harbour there, which it just sort of ticked so many boxes in what I could do most days of the week, actually. So yeah, Polis would be one of my, in the area around there.
Brilliant. Yeah, Cypriot wine is quite popular, isn't it? There's a lot of vineyards. Is that right, Denise?
Yes, I love wine. When we first come to Cyprus, the wine wasn't so good, but I do have to say that it's had a massive improvement over the years, and you can get some very, very good, excellent Cypriot wines now. We have many vineyards in the Troodos and a good selection. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we've touched on traditional villages there, and as also with Larnaca reference with Rob. So I think we might do our final poll now, which is what type of location do you seek? A traditional village, walking distance to a beach, or maybe on a golf resort, or one with sort of sport, spa facilities, etc. So if you can let us know what you think there. I reckon walking on a beach, walking distance to a beach might be the most popular, but we'll see. Yeah, half of you want to be within walking distance to the beach, and then traditional village not far behind on 38%, and only 1% on a golf resort. Interesting.
Very.
So moving on to sort of some of the more practical stuff. Richard, as in other places we look at, why is finding a good agent so important when buying abroad?
Good question, Liz. Yeah, when you're buying abroad, it's, to start with, you're not going to be able to travel. Well, most people can't travel backwards and forwards between wherever they're buying, whether it's Spain, Cyprus, Portugal. So your agent is someone who's going to do, a good agent anyway, is going to do a lot more for you than what you'd expect an agent in the UK to do. Once you really only need to choose one good agent, maybe two, who is going to really take on board all your requirements. They're going to understand exactly what you're trying to achieve from your purchase. And they might be, like my fellow panelists, they might also be people who've done exactly what you're doing, which is bought in Cyprus as, at that time, buyers, not agents. So they understand the journey and the process and any fears and anything that you might be concerned about along the way. So their job is not just selling your property, it's almost hand-holding as well you throughout the process. So once you've given them your wish list and they've got a good understanding of what you want, they'll go away and look for properties for you. Most of them will have an idea of what's available in their area, whether it's they're listed with them or another agent, but they'll find a way of giving you access to every property that will match your requirement, your wish list. So you need to be more organised in the UK, because then the next thing is you're going to go out to Cyprus and you're going to view the properties with them. There'll be changes along the way. You'll spot something that you like or don't like, and your agent as well will be receptive to the way you react to properties, so they know not to waste your time and show you other ones, because time is really valuable when you're on a viewing trip. Again, you can't flip between the UK and Cyprus on a whim because you suddenly fancy seeing another property. And so your agent will understand this, and they will. I mean, they do it with hundreds of people, thousands of people all the time. That they've done the process. You're going to have to trust your agent, and they know what you need to do to successfully complete and buy a property. And then after sales is another big thing with overseas property agents. Once you've completed, you're going to have problems, not necessarily problems, but things are going to arise with day-to-day maintenance of your property. You might need new air conditioning, you might need a plumber, this sort of thing. A good agent will be someone you can go back to post-completion with any questions like that, and they'll glad you help you out. Many agents, I think Rob and Denise will agree that a lot of clients, I'm sure, become friends over the years who you see on and off, and you share meals with and barbecues. So you become your agent really becomes part of your community, I think, where you live or where your holiday home is.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Denise, without going into great detail, I think the purchase process, as you've already referenced, is similar to the UK. But is there anything particularly you want to sort of flag up to property hunters that they should be aware of?
I think one thing to be aware of is that the properties in Cyprus, they're all freehold. So it's slightly different in terms of if you were to buy a flat apartment in the UK, you would buy with the lease. Whereas in Cyprus, every property is freehold, including apartments, which is slightly different. So that's just one area that maybe they should be aware of, because it is a different procedure.
Brilliant. Well, that sounds a lot better, actually.
Yes.
And Rob, purchase costs. How much should people budget for the extra bits on top of the sales price?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it varies from property to property slightly, but I mean, if for example we took it, let's say a typical €200,000 property, but, legal fees should never be any more than a maximum 1%, which there again is similar to the UK. It's normally a minimum around about €1,500, €1,700. Coupled with that, there's disbursements, stamp duty fees, etc. But I think, as we say to most clients, if you tend to budget around about €3,500, you know, that should be fine. On top of that, you know, those who are relocating, they'll obviously have those who wish to bring furniture across from the UK, the shipping costs, which we can advise on, you know, as Denise can. We use a couple of companies, or recommend a couple of companies over there. You're probably looking for a container across round about between 2,000 and 4,000 if you're bringing a car over, and a full container. But the legal costs are very, very similar to the UK.
Brilliant. And Rob, and then maybe also Denise after. We're getting quite a lot of questions about mortgages. One of them from someone called Paul Davison is there a UK broker who can arrange mortgages in Cyprus for a Cypriot property? Rob?
We deal with one broker in the UK who can arrange Cypriot mortgages. There's not that many around in the UK. There's a couple, we deal with one in particular. But in regard to mortgages through the banking system in Cyprus, mortgages, and I'm sure Denise will say the same, mortgages are coming through. We've got clients at various stages. For approval from the date of application, you're probably looking around about 6 weeks.
Do the requirements for a mortgage vary from the UK drastically, Denise?
No, something interesting I will like to point out about the mortgage system is that after Brexit, British buyers should be classed as an international buyer. And that would mean that they would apply for their loan through the bank at the international banking unit. The government has intervened in terms of allowing our British buyers to still apply at local branch level. So they will still be able to go to a local branch, and I know Rob does the same. We make that introduction. We take the client to the local bank manager. We like to prepare them before they come over with a full list of documents that they would need to make the application for their loan. The document list has there's two areas of the document list. One is for money laundering, for know your client, and that's a legal requirement by real estate agents in Cyprus, where we have to have these documents to prove that these are people that we know, that are known to us. And then we can make that introduction to the bank. The documents are very similar to if you would want to get a loan in the UK. You would have to have your proof of earnings, you'd have to have your bank statements, proof of address. Very, very similar list is provided to them, so they can make that application to the local branch. There's special loans for British holiday home loans, they call them holiday homes. The contribution's quite high in terms of, if you was to look on the Bank of Cyprus website, it would say 30%, but I would say around 40% is around what you would be accepted, depending on your affordability. But yes, they are available, and we can deal with them at branch level, which is very good.
Brilliant. And Rob, do most people get mortgages, British buyers, or do they tend to be cash buyers?
No, I mean we still have an awful lot of cash buyers. I think a lot of that come from people who are retiring, looking to retire out in Cyprus, who have perhaps sold the family home in the UK and downsizing. So they have a degree of money in the pot, if you like. But yeah, I mean, we still get people, as I say, who wish to go through the mortgage process, which isn't a problem. I think, as Denise said, a typical is normally around about 60% loan to value. But they are coming through. It's slowed up a little bit, obviously, with the current situation. Yeah, but the IBU are still processing.
Yeah, there's no problem with the Cypriot economy, is there? Compared with Greece, it's doing very well.
Fortunately.
So, Denise, Denise, we've got quite a few questions. I know we talked about it before as well. The issue of title deeds. There's a lady, Angela, is asking, we've been told not to buy a property without title deeds, but many agents still have lots for sale without. What is the difference?
Okay, if a property has the title deed, it means the owner has had the title deeds transferred to their name. So they're in the vendor's name. What this actually means is the process of transferring the title to the new buyer is very straightforward. If it's a title deed property, the bank will also loan and give you a mortgage if the property has a title deed. So that's quite straightforward. Now, as Richard said earlier, you should use an independent lawyer. So once we, as your agent, find you a property, an independent lawyer will carry out due diligence. There is a different process if a title has not yet been issued. That process has to be carried out by the lawyer. It does take a little bit longer than a title deed property, but if I can just try to explain, it's quite similar to having a leasehold property in the UK. You would complete your purchase on what we call an assignment contract. That contract would be deposited at the land registry. You are the legal owner, and when the title deeds are ready, then they will be issued to the legal owner. It's very important for a lawyer to carry this procedure out. So if it doesn't have a title deed, very similar to UK, there will be land searches done and they will establish the legal position that the property is at. And if it is safe, the lawyer will complete the purchase. If it's a new build, for example, and Rob was saying about a lot of people are interested in new builds now and buying land and having something built. Obviously, there's no title deed on a new build because it hasn't been signed off by the local authority that it's been built to the specific performance. So the banks will loan on those. They are safe to buy. The bank will loan on new build or plot and build properties. So I think that's the difference. The main point of all of this is that we use an independent lawyer to do the due diligence and to make sure that our buyers buy correctly.
That's key advice, as in all of the countries we cover. Rob, what about when we do go out of, when Britain does after the December, when we're all out of the EU, the transition period's over, what will be the position for British buyers? Will they be allowed to buy property?
Is that my question?
Rob?
Yes. Oh, Rob. Have we lost him?
I think we might have lost Rob. Denise, in the meantime.
Yes, they will be able to buy a property. I actually bought a property in Cyprus before they were members of the European Union. So it will go back to those procedures. It's paperwork, basically. We sell to Lebanese, Chinese, different nationalities. So yes, we will definitely be able to buy a property in Cyprus. What does that actually mean? If they're buying a holiday home, then it's quite straightforward. They buy a holiday home and they can come and they can use it as a holiday home. But what if they want to buy to actually come to live in Cyprus in the same way that I did and to retire in Cyprus? Yes, they can still do that, and they can become a permanent resident of Cyprus. There's not a limit. I think one of the questions that were put to us that people are talking about having to purchase at a certain level. These are what people call golden visa schemes. If we put that to one side, our retirees can come, they can buy an apartment for 100,000 if they wish, and we can apply for their permanent residency, and it will take time. It's not a fast track, but they will be able to retire in Cyprus. Now, if anyone's retiring, obviously their income is important because you want something to live on. Most of our British buyers have pension, so this is great. They have their pensions to live on. But if you're under 60 years old and you want to come and live in Cyprus, yes, you can, and you can buy and you can become a permanent resident, but you will have to find a job and you will have to pay your national insurance contributions, which is the same as in Britain. Those national insurance contributions will entitle you to the National Health Service in Cyprus, and the pensioners from 60 plus automatically get the National Health Service once they become a permanent resident of Cyprus. So yes, there are different schemes that if you want what we call a fast track golden visa, many Chinese do this, 300,000, then they can have their permanent residency very quickly. But if we talk about our British buyers, which we're here today to do, they will be able to come and live in Cyprus if that's what they wish to do.
Brilliant, thank you. And Richard, you own a holiday home. I mean, what are the running costs? You know, I mean, I know Spain will be different to Cyprus, but what are the different types of things that you have to factor in to having two properties?
Yeah, well, to start with, you've got the usual utilities running bills. So you've got electricity. Don't always have gas if you're buying in Europe. Depends where you are. Water. With electricity, with things to bear in mind, you'll probably find your bills spike at the end of the summer when you might be conditioning on a lot. A swimming pool, then you might have the pump running, the filtration system, so that will cause your electricity bill to spike in summer. But as long as you're aware of that and you make sure you've got sufficient funds in your Cypriot bank account to cover that, then that's fine. The good thing about most European countries, Cyprus especially, is your council taxes is much lower, or even as existed, I think, at the moment. Is it still waived in Cyprus? Denise or Rob will probably.
Yes, there's no community council tax in Cyprus. The bills, one of the attractions to pensioners is the living costs of living in Cyprus. My water bill, for example, for the whole year is €200. My refuge is 180 euros per annum. And nowadays we do offer buyers the opportunity of having the solar systems in their properties that don't just accommodate hot water, but the full electricity, so you will not pay for any electricity. And that's something everyone should consider, particularly with the new build. You have the option to have the solar, so you don't have electricity bills. So actually living, you can live on very little money in terms of your, you know, your monthly costs. So it's very attractive for pensioners.
Should I just add?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. If you live on a resort or a gated community, of course, you will have the monthly or quarterly community fees to pay, which go towards the maintenance upkeep of all the communal facilities.
Yes.
And it stands, you know, the more facilities there might be, if you've got multiple swimming pools and landscape gardens and tennis courts, it's going to cost more to upkeep them. So your monthly fees will be more. And so have that in mind when you're looking at and check with the agent or representative or monthly fees might be, because you don't want to get caught out once you've moved somewhere or bought somewhere with a large bill a month.
Definitely. Normally, if you have a private pool, it's a similar cost to a communal fee. So, you know, if it's 50 euros a month for your swimming pool, you know, 500 a year is a similar figure for communal fee. If you have swimming pools and lifts, and you know, then obviously you need to pay for the upkeep of those facilities. So.
Yeah, it's you get what you pay for, don't you? With if you have a fancy spa or 3 golf courses, you have to pay for them. Denise, I have a question from Gerard O'Brien. He currently has a property in Limassol and is thinking about Panera or Paphos. Excuse my pronunciation there. I've holidayed in Panera. And which would be a better investment and holiday destination, looking at buying a 2-bed apartment?
Okay, well, I'm sitting in Panera today, so I'm going to say Panera. No, okay. Paphos has many opportunities for that type of purchase, and I would say both areas have options for the buyer. Definitely. And bearing in mind that we get 51% of the tourism with a 91% up the rate of occupancy, then maybe Panera, he should look at it. But both areas are good for that kind of purchase.
And what about how much might he expect to pay for a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment in Panera?
Okay, I would say 1 beds would be a turnkey would be around 100,000, 99,000, and your 2 beds from maybe 135, 145. It's a seaside area, so you know, it can go up as much as 175,000 euro if it's a very good resort, but that kind of figure.
Brilliant. Sorry, we've got Rob back. I've got another question for Denise or Rob. I'm not sure of the answer myself. Can I swap land in Cyprus for property? Rob, any insights on that one?
Sorry, when you say swap land on property,
I don't know whether they mean literally swap, do a sort of exchange deal, or whether I presume they can sell.
I mean, obviously that would come down to negotiations between the vendor and the buyer. You know, land is a big commodity in Cyprus. Obviously, it's not overbuilt. But yeah, I mean, land with olive trees on, for example, is worth a heck of a lot more. It depends what the land is, but that would come down to individual negotiations, you know, which we'd assist in between the vendor and the buyer.
Sure, brilliant. And we've touched on this question before, but Ian Smith is keen to know, will there be time to have the resident process completed before end of December? Denise?
Yes, definitely. And it only takes a few weeks, and the main thing is to choose your property and get the legals completed on the property, and the application for residency can go in at exactly the same time. So yes, there is definitely time. We're having, as I think Rob mentioned earlier, we are actually doing video viewings here in Cyprus, and we are taking reservations subject to contracts, where a lot of people are doing the process now, appointing their lawyer, getting their documents together, and actually getting ready their application for their permanent residency before the end of the year.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to get very organised, isn't it?
Yes.
Just we're nearing the finish time, but Rob, on the question of you touched on some good opportunities earlier. Do you think there'll be deals in resales or new builds? What do you think the effect of this crisis will be on prices?
Well, yeah, there again, I think similar, you know, I'm from a house building background, from a developer background for many, many years, you know, and as with your house builders, your Bellways, your Wimpys, etc. in the UK, you know, Cyprus developers are no different. You know, they build properties, they have to sell them. So, yeah, I think there's going to be good opportunity for negotiation. You know, I think, you know, this pandemic, it's affected all the industries, hasn't it? All of us. So, yeah, you know, there's good opportunities there. People who've got resales and wish to sell the property for whatever reason, you know, it will come down to negotiation, but I think the first few months will be somewhat of a buyer's market to a large degree.
Mm-hmm. And Denise, do you expect to see lots of opportunist investors coming in and trying to buy properties more cheaply than before?
Yes, they are, but you know, you have two markets. You have a market of vendors that maybe won't sell during this time. They would rather stay put and wait and see. You know, it's an unprecedented situation. So it's not a recession, so we could recover fast. So therefore they may not sell. So in the resale market, I don't believe there's so many opportunities. However, the developers, Rob touched on that, they are making available to their good agents like us opportunities for special prices, and this is where we are offering those out to investors and the Cypriot market as well. The Cypriots are buying now during this period of time where the developers are giving special offers, significant special offers actually, and this is where we are managing to secure sales remotely, where they're looking at what the price list was and the opportunity for 2 months to be able to purchase and reserve the price. So yeah, there are very good opportunities around currently, particularly in the areas near the sea, which is a very good purchase near the sea. So yeah.
Brilliant. So the advice for property hunters is really to sort of do their research, look at your resources on your websites, get on the phone to you, have a video call, discuss their requirements, and then try and book a flight out as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And can I say something else about the special offers, because Rob is in the same position with his website. We don't advertise the best price we can get. So it's good to get in touch, you know, get in touch. If there's something they like, we can negotiate for them to obtain a very good special price at the moment. And this is where we're getting many inquiries, more inquiries April 2020 than we had in April 2019, which is incredible. So maybe everyone's just at home and thinking of sunny Cyprus.
Well, I think this situation makes people reassess what they want. They realise that life's quite short and they just want to get on with it. It's like Brexit, but even worse in that way, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes, definitely.
Richard, any final tips for property hunters abroad?
Yeah, we talked a bit about using an independent lawyer, but one thing we didn't mention was this has become especially salient, is using power of attorney, so that if you have a lawyer in Cyprus who can act for you while you're not there, makes life a lot easier. And anyone who'd done that before lockdown, they had a lawyer who had power of attorney, you know, they didn't have a lot to worry about because they could let them get on with everything in their absence. So, you know, do consider that when you're appointing your lawyer.
Can I just say
very good advice.
Yeah, sorry, can I just say on the power of attorney, for those clients who obviously are currently in the UK and flying is an issue, we have arranged power of attorneys in the UK. They have to be apostilled, and we have 2 Cypriot UK-based lawyers whose completed power of attorneys actually in the UK. They're then couriered to your lawyer in Cyprus. So, you know, it doesn't hold that process up.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, look, I think we're going to wrap up there the session, but I forgot to mention it's your birthday today, Rob. So happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
I hope you can celebrate tonight with a bit more fewer restrictions. Well, you're in the UK, aren't you? So
yeah, so it'll be a bottle of red wine in a park bench somewhere. You know.
Well, look, thank you all thank you for your insight this afternoon, and let's all hope we can get on a plane to Cyprus as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thanks everyone listening.